This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you may have missed this morning, but we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 16th of April 2021, and I am 2J.
I'm Tom.
And I am GK. In case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, top of the class. In the Standard, public schools lead private in Mount Kenya. And in the Star, KCPE 2020 class defies COVID to shine in exam. And I want to congratulate all of them. Learning in the pandemic times was difficult.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And I think what was quite interesting to learn is that we in Kenya have a 100% transition rate, that being from primary into secondary school. So well done to everyone.
Well done to everyone.
Yeah.
And on that, can we give them all a winning headline?
I think so.
I just realized, I don't know if I agree with the Standard.
That the public schools are leading.
I feel like it's pitting not only private against public, but also central Kenya against the whole country. Honestly, what?
No, but it's giving credit where credit is due.
That's a good thing. All of them win.
Winning headlines? There you have it. They all have our winning headlines. What are we reviewing today?
When I watched the RUTO interview last night, I asked myself two questions. One, why did RUTO feel obligated to do an interview and tell us nothing new? And two, why did he seem cornered and uncomfortable? To put it differently, RUTO seemed like he was hiding something that was about to happen. The interview was a campaign for public sympathy, and we have a hypothesis why. RUTO must have some intel on ICC and Paul Gisheru, and that intel has rattled him. See, a week ago, two things happened. One, on April 9th, last Friday, Fatu Bensouda accused RUTO of witness tampering. And her tone sounded like she's come across new evidence that she did not have before. The second thing that happened and went unnoticed was that Paul Gisheru, RUTO's alleged ICC Mr. Fix-It, may have submitted his defense submissions to the pre-trial chamber a day earlier. And we use the word may because the ICC pre-trial chamber had asked Gisheru to submit any pieces of evidence that he may have in order to defend himself from the witness tampering charges the ICC slapped on him. He was to file his submissions by 8th April 2021. If this is the case, then RUTO is in big trouble. And that's because on the 23rd of April 2021 may just be the date of confirmation of charges against Gisheru. These dates are not mine. You can find them on the ICC website. Now, you may ask why RUTO could be in trouble. Gisheru could not have taken himself to the ICC if his intention was not to turn in someone. In other words, we think he has gotten himself a plea bargain. And if Gisheru has turned in RUTO, RUTO is cooked. He is finito. We could be wrong, but nah, we are right. And RUTO knows it.
Oh, wow. All right, interesting.
Okay.
I think we're going to have to digest that for a moment.
Yeah.
And while we do, I would like to plead temporary insanity, but just for a moment.
Okay.
And this is because I actually want to give a round of applause to Deputy President William Ruto. Can I get a thank you? And that is because the interview last night with Linus was brilliant. For a man who has been cast aside and deprived of his job functions, last night's interview was a platform to redeem himself in the eyes of the public and justify his recent behavior and actions. But it has been said that the best propaganda is that which does not disclose itself as propaganda.
Yes.
So bravo, Mr. Ruto. You are a sneaky man. Is it possible that he thinks that the Kenyan public is stupid? And to his credit,
yes,
maybe we are.
We are pumbafu kabisa.
He sat there and he tried to convince us that 1 + 1 is a potato. But if we examine the facts, his argument falls apart.
Yeah.
My points are only two.
Yeah.
Okay.
1, the deputy president was asked about his affiliation to UDA and what it means for his Jubilee membership. His response was that Jubilee is a failing party, but that he is a patient man. My goodness, can we give this man an Oscar?
Oh, yes.
What he doesn't want the public to know, and what Lioness should have asked him, is how his actions are directly conflicting with the law. In Article 103 of the Constitution and Section 14 of the Political Parties Act, it is clear that this man has effectively resigned. His patience is more about safety than anything else. The power of the presidency shields him from answering for his wrongs. So if he is satisfied, as he said, with his performance, why has he had all of his responsibilities taken away from him and given to a more competent man? I'm interested to know how the deputy president is disappointed with how Jubilee is operating, yet he wants to take credit for what the Jubilee administration has achieved. I must be missing something.
Absolutely.
2.
Yeah.
And this one is very important and many people missed it.
Yes.
William RUTO has built his so-called platform on this bottom-up economics.
Yeah.
And I believe this is where he has managed to convince people.
Yeah.
But we are staring at broken promises in the face. The DP suggested he would solve Kenya's debt problems by making it mandatory for all citizens to contribute 8% of their income towards NHIF and 5% towards NSSF to boost national savings. Totaled up with everything else, Kenyans are required to pay payee 30%, pension 5%, and VAT 16%. This adds up to 64% of everybody's income in their taxes out the window. And this is the Hustler's bottom-up 2022 plan.
Yeah.
My point is this, is that when you look closely enough, the deputy president is full of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Nothing adds up. But that's how he wants it to be. If he can charm and confuse you enough, he will win your heart. But can you actually take his promises to the bank?
That you can.
I don't know.
Zero.
Yeah, it was an interesting interview. There are various things that occurred to me about the DP's interview. One, that loyalty and betrayal of political leaders, political parties, are a worldwide phenomena. Now, while loyalty is not a simple virtue, I can see why presidents the world over will demand it. Yesterday's interview was the clearest indication of disloyalty. Uhuru Kenyatta has remained gracious enough to keep his deputy at the expense of exhibiting a strong political party.
Absolutely.
It has also become vividly clear how easy RUTO has had it. If DP lived in Putin's Russia, he would see that the price put on disloyalty is very high.
Absolutely.
So RUTO has been cultivating a populist proposition, the bottom-up hustler approach, and that's what Tujay alluded to. A noble idea, but the rise of populism is a tactic being used the world over. It is a political argument that pits ordinary people against the government elite. As Kenyans, we ought to think critically about RUTO's interview. He repeatedly offered that I am talking about real people, I will form an alliance of ordinary people. But RUTO made very few policy commitments beyond this, other than when it is his turn that he will do better. Now, the commitments he made seemed absurd and even paradoxical.
Yes.
He wants to call Jubilee a corrupt creation, but he has been a part of it. He is really a part of the incumbency.
Yeah.
He undermines his boss repeatedly and then wonders why his boss casts him aside.
Yes.
He brings his payslip, that is public knowledge, knowing full well that the elephant in the room is actually his declaration of wealth, which remains undeclared.
Oh, absolutely.
RUTO says he has future plans, but I seriously wondered, for a man so committed to the ordinary Mwananchi, why not lend them to this administration?
Yes.
From day one when he had the chance.
Yes.
If the DP criticizes Jubilee debt, how does he intend to fund his government when he comes in? What will be so different in 2023? Which miracle is this that he hopes to perform that he didn't guzia his boss 8 years ago? In the mandate that each person commit themselves to cooperate sincerely, the country, for the country, DP has failed in this. And I firmly believe that.
I could not agree more.
Agreed,
And by the way, RUTO has no plan of his own. From the hustler nation, hustler narrative, he took it from Prof. From the bottom-up approach, we did it in Vintage Fifth, we've done it in the Damaging Ignorance.
But beyond that,
Bad Samaritans.
economics the world over is really the bottom-up sort of approach. Anyway.
And I think the point of what you're discussing, GK, that populist agenda, I don't think people understand how dangerous and divisive it can become. Look at the US. I mean, every day is one, story after the other of how the country is falling apart. Look at Eastern Europe, it's the same thing. So I think Kenyans really need to take a critical look before they accept some of these things.
Exactly. So on a day, we have a winning headlines from all three papers.
Absolutely. And our fun thought, it is inspired by the battle between Facebook and Snapchat. GK, Would you please give us a summary?
Yeah, so this whole week we've been looking at business wars. On Tuesday, we took to the skies and looked at the battle between Boeing and Airbus. It is a story of the battle for air supremacy within the two titans of flight. In reality, this has become more of a battle between Europe and America for an industry worth over $190 billion. The reality of this rivalry is that it keeps them both on their toes and producing premium products, so in the end, the consumer is the winner. On Wednesday, we reviewed the sneaker war between Nike and Adidas. We began by looking at the size of the sneaker industry, which in 2020 was valued at approximately $79 billion. We looked at the history of both Nike and Adidas and their different paths to success, the dominance of Nike and the humble beginnings of Adidas by comparison. Adidas are known as a David to Nike's Goliath, And on Thursday, we switched gears to the food industry and looked at the war between KFC and Chick-fil-A. We discussed the true strategies of these two organizations, how KFC has grown from a back room in a fuel station in the middle of nowhere to become the most well-known chicken fast food restaurant chain in the world, while Chick-fil-A is a franchise that are closed every Sunday and maintain it to keep Christian values as part of their company cultures, values that have made them an enemy sometimes to the American public. And today we're on Facebook and Snapchat.
Of course, we had to look at technology.
Yes.
And in this Facebook versus Snapchat business wars, I want to look at the copycat wars that these two businesses have had to endure. So just some facts to get us started. As of 2020, for both companies, there are 265 million daily active Snapchat users worldwide. In the US alone, this accounts for 59% of the 13 to 24 age range. That's actually quite like the prime age range for social media. For Facebook, as of 2020, I think we all know it's the largest social media platform globally with 2.6 billion monthly active users. Wow. That's quite incredible.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the way that, I think we all know this, the way that people have changed, the way that they share things has increased and made a difference across the world. People don't just share updates, now they want to share experiences. And so this has led to growth innovation in the media content space. So you have virtual reality, 360 videos, live videos, pictures of your face, pictures of where you are, what you're doing. But one of the biggest issues that social media platforms face today is revenue earning. And I think a lot of people sometimes forget that as the user. So a majority of revenue earned by Facebook is through adverts. But these days, users have become quite averse and repulsive to in-your-face adverts. Those sponsored posts and the way that Facebook usually does its advertising. And this made developers look for an alternative advertising placement scheme, and this brought Snapchat into the scene, and it really rose its profile. And so Snapchat is really known for its great revenue model. And because of this, it is now worth $25 billion. But then you have Facebook being one of its biggest competitors. And what Facebook did is it started to copy the features in its family of applications. So many Facebook applications like Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, and even Facebook have similar features that are similar to that of Snapchat. And this started that Facebook-Snapchat war. So just before Facebook went public in 2012, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO, had this book that was titled Facebook Was Not Originally Created to Be a Company, and he placed a copy of it on each one of his employees' tables. And at the end of the book, he ends with this rallying cry, and he says, "If we don't create the thing that kills Facebook, somebody else will." Embracing change isn't enough. It has to be so hardwired into who we are that even talking about it seems redundant. The internet is not a friendly place. Things that don't stay relevant don't even get the luxury of being left in ruins. They just disappear.
Wow.
And so from this paragraph, you can see that Zuckerberg is so fully aware of the potential from other startups to kill his own business. And so within Facebook, he builds these teams that create other apps to rival Facebook itself. But he also has this intense or innate need to acquire and snatch up the best companies that are on the market. And so he's so aggressive at that it has made Facebook a lot better. But then eventually, when Facebook tried to buy Snapchat in 2013, they offered the CEO even $3 billion. I think it was double the value of what Snapchat is actually worth. But Snapchat turned down that offer. And and I guess Facebook looks at it like, this company that got away. And Snapchat moved on, they continued doing their own thing. And then Facebook decided, what else can we do? We just copy. And it became this copying war where Facebook just copied everything that Snapchat had.
Wow.
Tell us about that.
Biggest lesson for me is cut your losses when you can. When someone bigger than you in the market wants to buy you out, think twice. And that's because their strategy will either be to pirate your methods or buy you out whole.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, there's a bigger payoff remaining as is, or selling it for a better offer. But never entertain the idea of ignoring some player who does the same thing as you do, does it bigger and does it better. You will be crushed. When Snapchat refused Zuckerberg's offer, people call him Zuckerberg here in Kenya, Zuckerberg, the fellow did not care. He simply pirated Snapchat stories method.
Yeah.
Then Facebook copied Snapchat's stories feature, which let users post photo and video slideshows that disappeared after 24 hours, wherever it could in its Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram applications. I think the Snapchat owner wasn't smart. He should have learned from the Instagram buyout by Facebook. See, Instagram was bought for $1 billion in 2012. Now, Kevin Systrom, the majority owner of Instagram, then owned 40% of Instagram. In real figures, his stake was about, $200 million US. But because Zuckerberg offered twice the valuation, Kevin went home with about $400 million. When he sold his stake, he remained the CEO of Instagram, meaning he still had some oversight of operations. But even more importantly, Kevin got 23 million Facebook shares as part of the deal.
Wow.
In 4 years, the guy was already a billionaire with a worth of about $2 billion. In just 5 years, he had nearly multiplied his cash out 5 times. So the question begs, if the Snapchat man had sold for $3 billion and gotten some great stock options from the deal, Snapchat would not seem as moribund as it does. In any case, if Facebook and Instagram are doing the exact same thing as Snapchat is designed to do, Snapchat would be part of Facebook's going concern by now. Listen, people, never let your ego get in the way of a good deal.
No, I love what you said, but I want to differ slightly because I love that Snapchat stood its ground and didn't get swallowed up into the behemoth that is Facebook.
Yeah.
And I'll give my reasons why in a bit. But the idea is that not every company has to make 27 billion per year, which is something along the lines of what Facebook makes. Because there's a nice saying, when it comes to tech, we tend to think of things as being binary. If one company is making less money than the other, our binary thinking tells us that the latter company will certainly die. This thinking neglects the fact that niches can exist within social media apps. It neglects the fact that we as consumers use more than one app during our day. I'm sure we all do. And Snapchat has a strong core of users, which I think it still has. There's some people who have never left Snapchat, even when TikTok came along, even when all those things, right? But the other thing I liked was that many people liked Snapchat, especially me, because it was exclusive. So it was a private app. It was meant for your personal use with your friends, where you nurture your existing relationships, whereas Facebook and Instagram were sort of geared to this marketing big thing, the influencing thing. So you're posting for others and not necessarily to, increase or grow your relationships. But what was interesting, as I read about Snapchat, was its dodgy beginnings. Initially, Snapchat was actually was called Peekaboo, because they wanted you to be able to send your significant other or other some interesting photos of yourself and them not remain on the internet jeopardizing your life, right? But the other thing that I came across was a thing that we're all familiar with. Facebook, as it's grown bigger and has sort of in charge of a lot of people's data, photos, and all that stuff, has also come under scrutiny for its privacy and data breaches. Most famously with Cambridge Analytica. So a bunch of people take a personality quiz, and this ends up exposing them to the data hack, which means you're using this information to target really personalized political advertising to them. So as it's grown over time, it's also had to deal with the changing nature of our data privacy and laws. The thing I can take from Zuckerberg is he is keen on talking to younger generations, the idea of staying relevant. And I think that's what Snapchat found out quite earlier on. So Snapchat becomes famous because people want to download Snapchat because people hadn't caught on to it. It becomes a new thing over Facebook. The other thing I'll say is that Snapchat was very good at this algorithmic delivery. The idea that it prioritized really what you wanted to see, not necessarily in chronological order, but the thing that was most important to you, what your friends were posting. And then there's a lesson as well from Snapchat. Be careful when innovating. So I think, I can't remember which year, but they decided to do a redesign of the app to try and compete with Instagram and the others. But Kylie Jenner, who is famous, I think she was once a Forbes billionaire. She's a famous reality star. She tweets and says, "Does anyone even open Snapchat anymore?" She tweets this out to 24.5 million followers. And that same day, in a few hours, in a matter of hours, Snapchat shares plummeted. They ended the day down 6%. They lost $1.3 billion in value that had been wiped out. So 1.2 million people petition Snapchat to bring back the design. So there is a lesson in sort of, if you have your core users, stay loyal to them and the things that they were drawn to you in the first place.
You know, I get the feeling that RUTO would enjoy picking.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, in the end, I want to end with this. Here's what entrepreneurs can learn from Snapchat. 1, stick to what makes you unique. Be patient and play the long game. Remember to live within your means. You don't have to be as big as Facebook, but you do have your niche market.
Are you taking notes?
And lastly,
I stuck on Peekaboo.
Innovation and creativity is currency. Let's not forget that as big as Facebook is, it copies a lot of its stuff from Snapchat and not the other way around. So there's value in innovation. Apply this principle to your own business.
Yes.
I wish you a lovely weekend. We had 3 winning headlines. Congrats to the students. And have a lovely weekend. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us on TV, GoTV, Time for you to air startups.
See you.